It's really important to get a solicitor to have a look at your lease. A lease is a complex agreement. They're often very long, but even then there are terms implied into them. Without expert knowledge, you could often get caught out. For example, a landlord could end up with a sitting tenant unless we expressly provided in the lease that the tenant didn't have security of tenure. From a tenant's point of view, they could end up with onerous repairing obligations unless we dealt with that expressly in the lease. So it's important to know exactly what you're signing up to, and a solicitor can help you with that. A solicitor has a really important role to play when negotiating lease terms. They're well placed as an expert to give you advice early on in the lease negotiations, and it's often a good idea, especially if you're not familiar with commercial leases, to have your solicitor cast an eye over the heads of terms before you finalise them with the property agent. Often solicitors come up with suggestions you may not have thought of, and thrashing out the key terms early on can often save you money and time in the long run. If you're a start-up business looking to take on a new lease, I'd say don't rush in. Make sure you take expert advice from your solicitor early on and get their input on the heads of terms. Consider what might happen if things go wrong, and it does go wrong sometimes, and try and agree break clauses which would allow you to end the lease early if you needed to. As a start-up, the landlord will often be looking for extra security, so they may be looking for a rent deposit or for personal guarantees. My advice is, if your cash flow will allow it, try and agree a rent deposit instead of a guarantee. There's lots to think about when you're buying commercial premises. Firstly, make sure you get a survey so that you're fully aware of the state of the property. It's also important as it acts as confirmation that you're buying it at a fair price. Another thing to think about is making sure that there's room to expand. Buying your commercial premises is a long-term investment, and the costs associated with that purchase are not insignificant. So make sure there's room for your business to grow into your property. The other thing I would say is sort your funding out early. Banks are much fussier these days, and it can take a while for the bank to approve everything. So unless you're a cash buyer, it's unlikely that things are going to happen overnight. So you need to bear that in mind when planning your timescales.